Okay, you can go ahead. She'll join in a minute.
All right. Let me share
So
my.
all I have is a leave button now. So does that mean I could leave like because I do have another meeting that I'm late for?
Yep, you are able to leave.
Okay, and it's not going to dump everybody.
It's not going to dump everyone this time.
All right. If it does, it's Corey's fault, not mine this time. Everybody got that?
All
All
good.
right. All right, I'm going to head out. I'll be right back.
All right. Okay, so let's try this again. We're going to share the screen. And what I'm going to show you is this incognito window that we were just talking about before we disconnected. So if I go back to my actual browser, so to my first window, you're going to see that you should have, and I believe it's on the right for the PC also, but it might be on the left, but you'll see the little 3-dot menu. And when you pull that down, there's an option that says incognito window. And what that incognito window does, the reason why I said you should use it, is it avoids cookies, it avoids saving passwords, it avoids all of that. So when you close that window, it logs you out, like everything's gone, which is, by the way, don't save. Don't hope you're saving something. You're not going to save anything in incognito. But the other nice thing about incognito, this is just a little side note for all of you non-educational. If you're like, when COVID's over and you're ready to go on vacation, use this incognito window when you are shopping for airfare. I guarantee you will find better airfare because it's not saving cookies on your computer. It's like one of those little secret tricks that everyone really knows to do, but not everyone knows. But use incognito when you're shopping and you'll get better pricing. Just a little
Sorry, Corey, that's the best tip ever, and I'm stealing that from here on out.
that is the best thing. I don't actually understand why the airlines seem to lower the price if they think you're a new visitor to their website versus someone who keeps coming back and shops around. But when it's not saving those cookies on your computer, you will find the better pricing. That goes for car shopping, everything. Like the incognito window, it really works. All right, so you're going to log into Hello Smart. I'm going to just make this full screen. And the reason I'm having you do this is because you're seeing the student perspective. So as the student perspective, you're going to see you have a toolbar on the left of your screen. Right now, that toolbar has grayed out numbers because you can't do anything since I'm controlling it as the teacher. But you're going to see something in a moment. So the first thing we're going to just, again, show you that code. I'm going to put that back in the chat just in case you missed it the first time. And you're going to log in as that guest just because, again, you don't want to log in as yourself because then it just takes longer to log out and switch between student mode and teacher mode. But so you're joining my class, and I can see right now that Allison and Eric have already joined. I can see Maria joined, and notice that I have that little number 3 on my silhouette of people. If I click on it, that shows me who's in there. And we're going to talk about all of this as we move on with the software. I just want to do a little icebreaker with you guys, and then we're going to talk hardware, and then we'll go to software because I want to make sure you guys are comfortable with the physical boards. And then I want to show you some things because I do know that we have a lot of the special ed teachers and the, like the innovation, I'm tongue tied, the programs to help the students. So we have different things, and I want to help you guys to maximize the benefits of having this lovely board in your classroom.
So Corey, right now, okay, it just showed up, the presentation, and in the audience, just to put the words in your world, are our students who have more significant disabilities and our students who are accessing regular education but have emotional disabilities or need emotional support or mental health support.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I knew that these were mostly those teachers that have the non-general ed students.
Well, but I just want to make sure that our folks who are teaching our emotional support know that that our students who are getting emotional support services are accessing general education.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry, I know we did this so long ago.
No,
it's like
perfect.
we'll just go back and forth like special ed teachers, right?
Right. Well, not even that. The day that we had the pre-meeting was the day after my vaccine, and I was kind of out of it that day. So thank you for clarifying a little bit. I appreciate that. All right. So I want to start with that icebreaker. And if you're looking at my screen share right now, you are going to see it says Icebreaker student progress. But if you are logged in on your browser, so if you're one of the 8 people that joined my class in a web browser, you should see a button that says start. And when you click on that start button, you're going to see directions. And then you're also going to notice the toolbar to your left has changed. So that toolbar to your left is now going to show you, yeah, I did hit start. Okay. So that toolbar to the left is now going to show you a pen, and it has the letter A if you want to put a text box. It has a little picture with the plus sign if you want to do an image search. But it allows you as the student to kind of navigate that slide. It's letting you write on it, draw on it, whatever you need to do. Those of you that are looking at my teacher at my screen share right now, you're seeing what the teacher sees, which is the blank slide. But now here is the fun part. So I'm going to give you guys about 1 minute for those 8 of you that are currently in the class. I'll put up that class code again for those of you that needed to see it. But I want you to try that student mode out, see what you can do, and then we're going to look at your student work to show you how the teacher can go in and grade stuff. And again, this icebreaker is just to give you that student perspective before we even get started.
And Corey, if you give folks just a couple of minutes, I'm like the AT coordinator, and I'm trying to catch up with getting Zoom reduced enough to get a new window open. And I know some of our teachers are probably struggling with the same thing.
Okay.
And that they have to go to Hello Smart, and they might consider copying and pasting the class ID. But for those of you who are kind of stumbling over the how do I get there, because that's the first thing.
I have another great tip for you then, because you did say your teachers are on Windows computers.
Yeah. I
want you right now to click on your Zoom window. So that Zoom is the highlighted app, the current app. And then on your keyboard, next to the space bar, there is a button that has the Windows logo. I want you to hold down the Windows logo and press the letter R. And that's going to send Zoom halfway to the right of your screen. If you are a lefty and you prefer it on the left, hit Windows key and the letter L, and that sends it to the left. And then when you open up your web browser, you can do the opposite. So you're going to basically send one to the right and send one to the left. So hold down that window key and hit the letter R for right and hit the letter L for left. And whichever window you're currently on when you do that will go halfway to the screen. So that way it basically splits your screen in half, and you can see your web browser and your Zoom call right next to each other. If that helps. If that confused you more, ignore me then.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at your faces on my smartboard.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually trying to look at faces too, but to be honest, I'm struggling with the surface that I'm using, which is very different than what everyone else has. If you guys will unmute and communicate if you are there or if there's a reason you can't get there, so that we can make sure you do get there. If we've only got 8 people there, that's a problem. I'm good, and I split my screen.
I'm trying to open it.
Okay, great.
Is it all caps or is it all lowercase?
Hello Smart doesn't matter, caps or lowercase, and then the class ID is just a number.
Okay.
You guys in?
All right, and I saw somebody wrote they're there, but they have 2 screens. So Maria has 2 screens.
Okay, so Lori Bishop wins the day because she got there before I even can get close. And I know that Lori is techno, as she tells me, a phobic every so often. So I'm still struggling, but it doesn't matter to me because I don't need it. But I'm seeing a lot of people who aren't there yet.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, it's great. So I'm going to call all of you later, and I'm going to text you, and I'm going to email you to say, how the heck did you get there? It's kind of a payback, from all of those 3 a.m. texts.
And just because I know you mentioned that you're on a Surface.
I am, yeah.
I actually, my computer at home is a Surface. And I will tell you that I love this with a touch screen. And like when you're using it on the board, obviously that's a touch screen. But if I was to click this pen over here and I had my Surface, I could write on my screen. But if I'm using right now I'm using a computer, I'm kind of using the mouse pad and it's not as easy to write. But if you do have a touchscreen computer, you can click on that little pen icon and you can just write on your students' work. You could write on the slides. And the same way that I'm sharing the screen, you could share it. But the way that you logged in as the students, they can see it on their screen or on their device. So let's say that your students maybe they have Zoom open on their Chromebook and they decided to open the Smart Learning Suite file on their iPhone. They could write on the phone so they could see it on one device and see Zoom on the other, or they can have them both on the same device, just talking them through that whole splitting of the screen option. And you can do that on a Chromebook as well, splitting the screen half and half. It's not the Windows key. There is a key on the Chromebook that looks like a bunch of rectangles next to each other. It's called the screen key. I don't know where they come up with the names for the keys, but it's the screen key. And that's how you can split on the Chromebook. And if you're like me on a Mac, you would hover over the green. And you'll see, oops, I did it too fast. When you hover over the green circle, you'll see it says tile left, tile right. So every type of computer has the ability to do that split screen. It's just slightly different on each computer. But I'm going to go now and I'm going to come out of my teacher view, which is suddenly frozen. Right. This is interesting. All right, I'm going to refresh suddenly because this went all of a sudden my window froze. Can you guys still hear me or did everything freeze?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. I think It was just that I stopped your patter and the computer went, oh, wait, let's freeze and wait.
Yeah, no, my screen yeah. The advantage of Zoom is I'm going to just close Chrome altogether and reopen Chrome. So.
Oh, and I have to say, half of the people on this screen just laughed their heads off to see your background because they know that's almost exactly my same background.
Really?
Yeah, it's nice to have a TARDIS when you need it.
I wish I had one for real.
Right?
I could actually
Allison's laughing at my Doctor Who problem, several others. I'm just doing patter while you get this started.
So. My Doctor Who obsession is a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside.
Right?
No, my Windows computer actually has, if you know that default blue Windows logo, the background when you first buy a new PC.
Yep, mine's the same.
My desktop is actually the TARDIS coming out of the Windows logo.
That is awesome.
So
I have a second one that is the whole window at the meadow. And folks, just so you know, I'm giving her time to get this stuff all going.
I could talk Doctor Who all day. It's all good. All right, so I'm back on the teacher view, and you're going to notice that some of you have a green check mark and some of you don't. That green check mark just means that the student checked that they're done. So on the student page, there's a little button that says finished, and when the student hits finish, it gives them that green check mark. So I am going to pick on Eric because he has a green check mark. And when I click Eric's name, you'll see, I could see that he put this really interesting emoji of a confused question mark smile, well, frown. And I can go and I'm going to pick on someone that doesn't have a check mark. So let's go to Angie. And I could see Angie open the file because her name showed up, but she didn't actually do anything on her slide. I can go to Darcy, nothing. Okay. Did anyone who didn't hit done put any, there we go. Okay, so Susan did not check off that she was done, but when I clicked on her name, I can still see that she put an image. So that is how these handouts work. So the teacher can go in and see everything the students are doing. And it doesn't matter if the student hit that they're done or not, you can still see it. So you can go in while they're working. So for example, let's say this was a math worksheet and Danny didn't mark that he was done yet, but he's struggling on this math problem. I can come in and I can say, I could just say something to him. And now Danny is going to see that text pop up on his screen. So everyone won't, you're only seeing that because I'm doing the screen share. But in reality, only Danny would see that I wrote something. So that's, as a teacher, you can give the students individual feedback as they go. And that's just a really nice little extra feature when you're doing this. So if you have kids that are hybrid and some are in the room, but some are not, you can still give them that feedback as they're working. All right. The other thing I'm going to show you as we're talking about feedback is, let's say that I want you guys to finish this on your own. So we just did the icebreaker together, but I had like 3 sheets of math problems, which I don't right now. Obviously, I'm not making you guys do math, don't worry. But let's say I had 3 math problem worksheets. If I come up to my silhouette and change this lesson pacing to student, now you're going to notice that your numbers are no longer grayed out because you guys can go through all of these slides on your own. And I'm going to actually give you the link to this, so that way you're going to be able to come back anytime you want, because there are notes in the slide for deck for you. So before I even move forward, let me get you that link. So actually, I'm going to give you the teacher link so that way you all get a fresh copy of this. Let me go to the chat. Oh, I just noticed Nicole wrote that she's getting an error code. Nicole, if you want to come off mute, what kind of error code are you getting?
When I attempt to join as a guest, it says, oops, an unknown error occurred. Please try again in a moment.
Was that during that like minute that I had to reset because my computer froze?
No, I've tried it maybe 8 times.
Okay. That's weird. I don't know what would be causing that error message.
Okay, I'll keep playing with it and see.
Okay. Well, if not, just follow along with the screen share, because I'm showing you this. I'm showing you the teacher side. I just wanted you to experience the student side.
Okay.
And that link that I just put in the chat, that is make a copy for yourself of this presentation. So that way you have it to go to refer back to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to move on to, and I'm going to go back to the teacher paste for now, just so the screen share is on the screen that I'm talking about. So we're going to go look at the boards themselves now. The board that I have right here is the same model as the ones you purchased. However, I believe that Brendan told me you guys got the 75 inches.
Yeah, I did ask for the larger, yeah.
And this is the 55 inch. So this is the smallest one they make, because my studio is not very big and I can't fit that big one in here. But it is physically, it's the same board. So the buttons, the pens, everything is going to be identical to yours. And I'm going to get up and actually touch stuff on here in a moment, but I want you to look at the screen share first, because, and again, I gave you a copy of this so you'll have it, but I want you to be aware of what you're physically looking at when you look at your board. So depending on how you guys have it set up, and Brendan didn't mention this part to me, so I'm not positive what you set up. Most school districts will have a USB and an HDMI plugged into the back, and it's either going to be like hanging off the side, like down the wall, or some schools will actually like put a port on the wall and then go like through the ceiling to come down to the other side of the room. So it depends on what your school set up. You may have cables that you need to just plug into your computer, or you may have like an HDMI cable and you plug it into the front of the board here and you plug the other end into your computer. So how you're plugging into the board will depend on your school, but these convenience ports in the front are so that you don't have to, if it's mounted to your wall, you don't have to like be reaching your hand behind to try to find that port. They work the same, whether you're plugging into the back of the board or the front of the board, the functionality will work the same. So those are just, it looks nicer in the back, but it functions perfectly well in the front. The other thing to make you aware of is the board has 2 front speakers, and these front speakers are really loud. They're 15 watts. I know that I've actually seen these boards in, I was in a school doing a training. They put it in the cafeteria for the training for social distancing purposes. And you could hear those speakers anywhere in that cafeteria. They're that loud. You also have your 2 pens, and then you have all your buttons. So the next slide is we're going to look at the buttons, and then I'm going to actually get up at the board and show you some stuff like actually physically moving, doing stuff. So let's just look at the buttons really quick. And it might be a little confusing to talk about it, but I'm going to demonstrate them as well. So the home button, you'll see I wrote that it says return to IQ. The built-in Android on your smartboard is referred to as the IQ. IQ is, you know, it's called a smartboard, and we talk about IQ with the brain. So I think that's why Smart refers to their Android as the IQ. It's the smart part of the board. Then you have your input button. And your input is how you can change between the Android, your HDMI, and all of that. Your curtain is just going to black out your screen. So whatever is on your screen, if you hit the curtain button, the screen just turns black. So if you have, like, let's say that you were doing an assignment like our Icebreaker, and you had a kid write something inappropriate, you can hit that blackout button, the screen turns black, and you don't have to worry about the other kids seeing it. You can get it off fast. If, or let's say you were showing a YouTube video and it decided that before the Schoolhouse Rocks video to put an appropriate advertisement, because we know, unfortunately, that happens sometimes. You could hit that blackout button and it'll turn the screen black. Then you have the pause button. If you remember with the old-fashioned projectors, if, like, let's say that you had a PowerPoint slide and you needed to go check an email from the principal really quick, you could freeze the projector on the PowerPoint and then go to your computer and check your email. That's what the pause button does. It freezes whatever on the screen. So if your computer's doing something else, it doesn't show what's on your computer. Then you have your volume up and your volume down. And then the last button is the power button. So that's everything that is on the board itself. On your screen, you have your settings button, you have your files, your apps, and I'm going to talk about what files and apps do. You have another location to change your input. So you have the input button on the buttons, but you also have input on your screen. And then if you have it enabled, you have wireless screen sharing. And then the last button is the cleanup logout. And we're going to talk about that as well. On the top left of your smartboard, you will see a user login, and we're going to talk about that because it's really handy to do. It helps make sure that your passwords are secure and you can access your files through this all files. All right, so I am going to stop sharing now because I'm going to actually get up on my board. And we're going to go to the home screen. So you guys are now looking at the Android. So when we're looking at this Android, this is what our computer defaults to. Again, this is referred to as the IQ. There are, again, those couple options. You have your settings, you have files, apps, input, screen share, and cleanup. When you hit cleanup, what this does is it takes everything off of the main screen. So it gets rid of your recents and it just puts your favorites. If I was to go here to files though, everything that I've done on the board is still there. So don't worry, don't think you're going to delete something by hitting cleanup. The cleanup does not delete anything, it just takes it off the home screen. So going back to that home screen, we're going to look at the settings first, and then we're going to look at the other things, because there are a couple of settings that you will need to know as you are using this board. So the settings is on the bottom. It's just a little picture of a gear. So here are the things in settings that you need to know as an everyday user of the board. Wallpaper. Right now my screen is blank. It was just blue, but I could put wallpaper. If you're a Disney fan, you can put Epcot. I don't think that's really Epcot, but I think it looks like Spaceship Earth, so I'm calling it Epcot. You can put your monsters. You could also take a USB right here in the front of your board, and you can take a JPEG. So I know some teachers do student of the month, and they'll put their student of the month as the background for a month, and then next month they put a new student as the background. You would just put the flash drive in the front of the board, the USB will pop up, and you can take those pictures. So that's how you can change your background. The next setting that you guys need to know about is your smart whiteboard. Right now, it is not a function feature, but it should be coming in the next month or two. One of these toggle switches will say finger. You want to turn that on when it shows up, because you're going to be able to use the pen and your finger on the Android. You can do that currently on the computer, but on the Android right now it's pens only. So that's just, again, that's something that will be coming soon. So just know that that's where you'll enable it, is under Smart Whiteboard. Screen share. This is something I'm going to tell you because your kids do have Chromebooks. If you want to have your screen sharing on, this top one that says require permission, turn it on. If you have require permission turned on, if a kid goes to wirelessly share to your board, it will actually just pop up with it'll say like Corey's MacBook would like to join. Yes, no. If you do not have permissions on, as soon as a Chromebook connects, their screen will pop up. So by requiring that permission, it lets you as the teacher allow something to be shared rather than just popping up on the board. You could also disable AirPlay. So let's say your kids have Chromebooks, but you don't want them sharing from their iPhone. Turn off AirPlay, and now only Google Cast can share. So that's just the screen sharing features. If you are going to do wireless sharing, that's a really important feature to know, and it's underneath the application settings. All right. The last setting that I want you guys to know about, actually there's two more. So I skipped network on the top. If your Wi-Fi is not working, check your network. Sometimes that toggle switch turns itself off for some reason and you're not connected to the internet. So just turn that on and make sure you're connected to your Wi-Fi. So again, if your board is not connected to your internet, that's how you can check that. If you have it plugged into your, I'm on the slow network for some reason. If you have it plugged in with your Ethernet, so like it's plugged into the wall, you never have to worry about connecting and disconnecting. It'll be connected. But if you're using Wi-Fi, that's how you would check if that's the issue. And then the last thing is software updates, which is all the way down at the bottom. It does update automatically, but let's say that you just had off for spring break and you turn the board off for the whole week. When you come back to school, go into your settings to software update and click check for updates now. The reason you want to do that is because, again, if the board was off, it's not going to receive those updates. Those updates come around 2 a.m. in the morning. So when you shut your board off at night from the power key, it's actually going to sleep. It's not shutting it off completely. If you unplug it, it's off completely. So that's why the checking for updates, you occasionally have to do it manually, but most of the time it should be automatic. To get back to our home screen, we're going to hit that home button. All right, any questions about the settings before we go into the whiteboard and the other Android functions? Very quiet group, isn't it?
So Corey, I was just typing into the team that I'll be breaking up this information that you're providing, which
Okay.
is very tech heavy, and not all of our teachers have had the opportunity to have the. Oh, come on, really? Sorry, I'm like,
No, you're
Amazon
fine.
needs to deliver to the neighbor right now. I'll break it down and have like smaller, quicker videos so that they can have settings. The information
And we are recording this, so we can definitely break
absolutely.
it into smaller. And I could even, I'll write a note that to break it down, like, so when I'm gonna upload it to YouTube and then send you guys the private link.
Right.
I could put a table of contents that says like settings 1 minute 40 seconds or whatever timestamp it's at.
Yeah, and I was also going to offer our teams that I will do sessions with them, because I have the freedom to do that, where I go into a classroom and they can have their boards all set up and ready, and we can do stuff together too. I recognize the look of panic in a few of your eyes.
Does anyone have the board? Like, are they in the classrooms right now with the boards? Or
No, they are not, which is why I wanted to assure them that they have my backup and yours as well, but that we'll have an opportunity. Some of them have boards, many of them do not yet.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely, and don't think that just because this training is only for today, I'm giving you guys my email address, my Twitter handle. Reach out. Don't hesitate. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm really trying to get to 2,000 followers, and I'm like stuck at 1,700. So, all right. So we're gonna look at the Android, and then after this is the last part of the hardware, and then after we talk about the hardware, well, actually, I talked about the buttons. I didn't demonstrate them, so let me demonstrate the buttons. But after we talk about the hardware, we're going to go into the software, because I want you guys to see the program that comes with the smart boards, because it's the one that we did that little icebreaker on, and it's really versatile, and it can give you a lot of options with your students. So when we're here at the home screen of the smart board, you're going to see your files, apps, input, and screen share. And on the favorites, you typically will have your whiteboard, your browser, and your player. The player is not actually one that you need to worry about. I don't know why it still is a favorite. That's from like a year ago before Smart updated other stuff. But whiteboard and browser are the two that you're going to want to know. You don't always want to plug your computer into the board if you have something simple that you need to do. So if you click the whiteboard, it's going to open up a whiteboard. Imagine that, right? All you have to do is pick up your pen and start writing. Ignoring my bad handwriting, this is why I taught math and computers and never taught literacy and handwriting. Now, I have it with a black pen by default, but I can come over here to the left and click on that pen icon, and you'll see that it opened up. Let me zoom in. You'll see when I zoom in on that left, it opened up a list of pens. So I can change the color. And now if I write, you'll see that I'm writing in red. I can do that again. I can click the pen. I can pick a different color. I can change the thickness. So that is the pens that are built into the whiteboard. It's kind of hard to see, so I want to point this one out to you. That bottom white dot, that is not white ink. It actually has three dots in it. And if you click on it, you'll see it brings up the whole color wheel. So you could actually write any color you want. So just because it has those 4 colors as samples, you could write any color. While I'm zoomed in on that part of the whiteboard, before I pull my camera back out, I also want to show you, you have your selector. So if I want to, why is that not selecting? That should have selected when I did that, but so the selector normally will let you select multiple things. Once you select, you can stretch it up and down, so you can make it bigger, smaller. You can click that little dot on the top and rotate it. You could also, if you click that arrow, let me get it into the camera view. This arrow right here that shows up on the blue box, when you click on that, that's how you can delete something. The other way to delete is to take your whole hand and it turns into an eraser. And I'll show you that when I go bigger screen too. If you want to embed a picture, click on that picture and you'll see it says add online content. As soon as I click, a little keyboard pops up. I'm just going to type Elmo because I, for some reason, have had Sesame Street on my mind, even though I probably should have typed Harvest, but you know. Notice that some of the Elmos are a little weird. So it is a safe image search, but it's not always safe. But you can click on the picture. And if I zoom back out on my board, so that way you can see the whole board, you'll see that that picture just got embedded onto my whiteboard. So now I can write on the picture. So that is the image search that's built into the board. Now I got to zoom back in because of course I zoomed out. Oh, wrong way. You would think I'd know how to use this remote control after all these webinars I've been doing, right? I never aim it correctly. All right, so the next thing down here is that 4 square icon. And what that one does is it opens up widgets. You have a clock, dice, spinner, timer. For those math teachers, you're going to have your geodric. I think that's how you pronounce that. But you have a protractor and a ruler. They're coming out with more widgets all the time, so there's going to be more stuff being added to this. If you were to say, like, click on the clock. Again, I'm going to have to go full screen. You're going to see a clock popped up on my screen. If I click on that clock, I'll get that same blue arrow, but this time, zoom in a little, that blue arrow says settings. And if I click on settings, now, I'm trying to get this a little higher, but I could change this from a round clock to a digital clock. I can change it from a 12-hour clock to a 24-hour clock. So you can customize it however you need. Then you just hit the arrow, and now you'll see I have a digital clock. I can click on that clock, and I can move it somewhere else on my screen. So having that clock can be beneficial because if you don't have a clock in your classroom, or let's say you're trying to get your kids to learn how to read an analog clock. Well, you can have that set to an analog clock. Leave it in the corner of your board. There we go. Make it a little smaller. Oops. Make it a little smaller. And now I have an analog clock in the corner of the screen to try to help my students just recognize it as we're going through the day. So just kind of like a subconscious extra thing for them to kind of get. But so that's an option as well. Down below, you have those same arrows that you guys saw on the Hello Smart, because I can go ahead and I can click that plus sign and I could add a new blank page to my presentation. I could also add some activities right here on the board. So without ever opening up a computer, without ever doing anything, I click on that plus sign. And now you're going to notice I have graphic organizers and manipulatives. How many of you need to do Venn diagrams and your circles are never even? Or I see a couple heads shaking. Well, if you scroll down, there's Venn diagram. So now I have my 2 circles ready to go. If I click that plus sign again, let's say that I'm trying to teach Cornell style notes. There's my Cornell notes. So there's a bunch of different graphic organizers already created for you. Go to that manipulative one. And now this is one that I really enjoy. So let's say I take my coins. I now have on the bottom of my screen pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, half dollars. I say to the kids, all right, I need a volunteer, come up here and make me $2.53. All right. I pick a kid from the crowd, the kid comes up from the back of the classroom, and they start dragging quarters or $50 or whatever they want to drag. This is an infinite cloner, which means you never run out of money. Wouldn't that be amazing in real life if you can just clone money and never run out of money? But they can just keep dragging. So you have like one kid up here, and these boards have 10 points of touch. So you could even have 2 kids up at the same time, and both kids could be dragging money. And again, this is probably after COVID is over and we're not social distancing anymore for obvious reasons. But you can have multiple kids up there doing that. So those manipulatives are just some great tools to get the kids up out of their seats, to get them active. You don't need to use the stylus for that, because since you're dragging, you're using your hand. You can use your whole hands. You want to try not to use the whole hand because it'll turn into an eraser, but you can use like 2 or 3 fingers and it does work. So it's a great interactive, get the kids up. Now, I know you had asked the other day when we had our meeting if they could use tennis balls like the older smart boards. And I'm going to be very honest with you, I forgot to get a tennis ball to test that.
That's okay. I know how to do it.
Okay.
We're good. But yeah, that was actually something I wanted to jump in and say, that it doesn't have to be a whole hand swipe. There are other ways we can make the board work.
Yeah.
With adapted tools.
Yeah, so there are definitely lots of different things you can do, lots of ways to manipulate that. But that, and then because I mentioned the whole multiple pages, if I click on that number, I can see a preview of what all the slides are that I've had. When I click on my home button, you're going to see under recent, there's my presentation that I was just working on. But if I click on files, you're going to see it says today, and there's a file, but then here's February, here's December, and every file that's been on this specific board is right there in those files. Click on home, it's going to go back. Going to open up Elmo again. Well, actually, we're going to open up our money. We talked about those buttons on the bottom. Now, remember, can anyone tell me which button blacks out my screen? I saw someone's hand kind of mime it, but all right, I'm going to draw a little picture.
Sorry, so you've got one teacher who said curtain.
Oh, someone said curtain?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it kind of looks like that, the icon. So it's just a curtain, like they said. And if you click the curtain button, the whole screen blacks out with an icon of a curtain. That way you know the difference between the screen going like broken and the screen having a curtain on it. So it'll just go black, you hit the curtain again, the screen comes back. So that one button just blacks out the screen really quickly. The pause button is not going to do anything on the Android, but that's going to help you when you connect a computer in a moment. And then you have your volume control. I don't want to like make you guys completely crazy, but we're going to go into our browser and we're going to go to YouTube so I can show you a video. And I'm not going to pick any, I'm just going to pick like a random video from the home screen. I'm not going to actually search for a video. I'm just going to see what pops up on the home screen before I click one of the random rectangles.
Because that's always safe in a school. I say with a big grin.
I've done it too, so. All right, we're going to go to Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Tony steals the last laugh. That's probably safe-ish. All right. So you'll know, oh, it wasn't last laugh, it was last donut. So you'll notice right now you can't hear anything, so I'm going to turn the volume up.
Donut with red, white, blue sprinkles.
And there's my volume control.
What did I tell you would happen?
Maybe not that loud while I'm trying to demo this. But it does get loud. But here's what I want to show you. So we're in the browser. We're on YouTube. But what happens if I want to say, look at her face. Notice that as soon as I put the pen to the video paused. And you can see the drawing on top. Well, maybe I have to zoom in more on this. So you can see that I drew on Elizabeth Olsen's face. As soon as the pen hits the screen, the video will pause and you can draw on the video. When you want the video to resume, up here in the top corner, there's a green X. You hit the X and it asks you, do you want to save this? If I hit save, it's actually going to just take a picture of the screen with my drawing. Takes a second sometimes, and then the video continues. So you can draw on those videos. That's a nice little extra thing that some people don't realize, so that's why I like to just demonstrate that. You can draw on websites, you can draw on videos. So anything in that browser, you are able to write on. All right, so now you'll notice under recents, you'll see I have my whiteboard, I have my screenshot, and I have my browser. So there's all my recent stuff right there to go back and forth between. The last thing I'm going to show you on the Android that we didn't talk about yet is logging in. Up here on the top left corner, there's a little person. When you click on the person, you'll see the option to sign in, and it'll ask you to log in with either Microsoft or Google. So you click that sign in with Google. And before I do that, sorry, I want to just show you. Right now, when I click on files, you're only seeing the files that are on the board. And you'll notice on top it says public files. If I click on that down arrow, public files is my only option. So now we're going to log in. And this way you can see the benefit of logging in before we get to the software. I wish I had a shorter email address sometimes when I'm demonstrating this. Because I spelled visual sound wrong. Yeah. All right, so that's going to log me in. And you'll see it says signing in. And what's going to happen is now when we go look at those files, all of the files, all of my smart files are going to come from the cloud to the board. All right, would you like to sync automatically? So I haven't used this specific board, so it asks me if I want to sync. You'll also notice now it says welcome Corey on top of the clock and my background changed. All right, so I'm going to go to my files. I am going to now pull down that arrow again, and you'll see the public files are there. Let me zoom in on that a little. So you'll see my public files are here, but I also have, it has my little initial. It says my files, and then it says SLS, board, and downloads. SLS are the smart files that you have in the cloud. Board files are files that you created when you were logged into the board. And downloads are if you downloaded something while you were logged into the board. What you're going to see, and it takes a second, especially because this is the first time I logged on to this board, but you'll see my files are going to pop up right over here. As soon as I stop talking about it and just stare at it for a bit, it'll probably pop up. But it's currently loading the stuff from the cloud. I noticed that we have more stuff going on in the chat. Allison wrote she hasn't gotten her volume to work. Will you show us how that works? Allison, when you say your volume hasn't worked, on your computer or on the Android?
When my computer's connected to the smartboard.
Okay.
My volume will only work with my speakers connected to the computer as well, and not the volume on the actual smartboard.
Okay, that's a PC. I don't want to say it's a PC issue. That is a PC setting. I will talk you through how to fix that on your PC.
Okay, thank you.
Some computers do it automatically. Other computers don't. Like I know right now, like I said, I'm on a Mac, but I currently have my speaker microphone over here in the corner. and then I also have the smartboard plugged in, I have to manually tell it what speaker to go to. So the same thing with the PC, and this really is taking longer than usual. I swear this does not normally take this long to log in. It's probably because we're watching it. But again, my files would pop up there. So we're going to go to the home screen, and then we're going to go back to files and see if that speeds it up. Of course not. All right. We'll check back. All right, so we're going to go back to the Android. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to my computer. So over here, you have your input, and then over here, you have your input. So for those of you that can't see what that input button looks like, I'm going to just draw it out for you. Because I am a terrible artist, but I enjoy drawing. As soon as my screen comes on. I think this is also, my board is currently logged into our guest network instead of our main network, so the internet itself is slow right now. It should be coming. There we go. All right, so the input button kind of looks like a rectangle, and then it has a cable. Kind of looks like an arrow, but kind of looks like a cable. So whatever you want to consider that to look like. But that's what the input button looks like. And when you click on that button, it will bring you up to a preview. Remember how I told you guys that there's a place to plug in on the back of the board and there's a place to plug in on the front? There are 4 total places to plug in. And when you have something plugged in, you'll notice that HDMI 2 currently has a screen preview, but HDMI 1, HDMI 3, and VGA are all blank. And that's because I only have one device plugged in. But if you had, like, let's say you have a desktop computer in the classroom, but then like a substitute plugs in a laptop in the front, you would see a preview of both screens so that you know which one you're turning on. And that is how you connect your computer to the board. So it's really easy. I have what's called mirror screening going on right now. And again, for those of you, because you have PCs, what I want you to do, how many of you, I'm looking at your pictures right now. So show of hands, how many of you have your computer currently plugged into either a second monitor or a smart board or just something other than the computer alone? All right, so when you're doing that, do you have the same thing on your monitor and your computer, or do you have 2 different things showing? All right, I see a bunch of 2s. So that is called a dual screen. I'm just going to tell you on the PC how you can change that, but don't actually change it right now. There, when you hit the Windows key, so again, it's that little Windows icon next to the space bar. If you click the Windows key and the letter P, so P for project, so Windows key and P, a little menu will pop out of the right of your screen, and you can switch between primary display, secondary display, dual display, or mirror display. And that option, that letter P, gives you the ability to put the same thing on both screens or different things on both screens. And that really does become a personal preference. So if you want to play around with it and decide what you like best, I like the dual screen because, as I said, I'm looking at you guys on the computer, but I have my smart board. So I can come over here. Oops, almost closed the meeting for everyone again. All right, so I can be over here, and if I was to open it's always slow when you're trying to demo. Actually, I'll just pull that over. So now I just pulled my browser over to the smart board, but the Zoom call is still on the computer. So now I'm here with our presentation that I had shared out to you guys before and still sharing with you probably. And I can come over here and I can click on the pen and I can write on my slides. And I can go to that next slide. So here we are. I'm in front of my class writing on my board, but I'm still looking at all of my students that are virtual on the Zoom call. So that's the benefit of the split screen. Any questions about that? Because like I know that a bunch of you raised your hand that you already do the split screen anyway. Okay. So we're going to start looking at the software now. If you have any questions about the hardware, I can answer those. So probably better to see if you have questions before I switch over to the software. So any questions about the hardware? Okay. So we are going to be looking now at the software. So I'm going to actually move you guys onto my smartboard, and I'm going to pull this back over, and then I'm going to share my screen with you again. Okay. All right. So we're going to look at Smart Learning Suite, and I do have a couple of slides for it on the presentation that I shared with you guys. I don't think any of you have Active Inspire files. Active Inspire is the Prometheum software. So some schools, you know, they switch from Prometheum boards to smart boards. So that's why I do have that little extra statement here and an extra slide. So if you do have those older Prometheum files, you can import them. It's just extra steps. But when you're creating the Smart Learning Suite files, which is what we're in right now, you can import anything. And part of the benefit of importing a file you already have is we as teachers don't like to reinvent the wheel, right? We like to borrow, modify, and expand. So let's say you have Google Slides and you're teaching, let's say you're teaching World War II. Has World War II changed in the past 5, 10, 20 years? Probably it hasn't changed in the past 70 years. So you might already have those lessons about World War II, but you want to increase the engagement. You want to increase the student participation, and that's what Smart Learning Suite's going to let you do. So I am going to show you now a quick sample of an activity. Now this one was a really basic one just for the visual in my slide. Smart has templates that will allow you to create activities for your students so that they can participate. So the same way that you did the do now, you can have your students participating in activities. But here's the difference between the template activities and homemade activities. You as the teacher currently, and I say currently because they're hoping this changes, you can't see your students' progress. So if you give your kids math problems in an activity, you can't grade them. If you give it to them in a teacher-made activity, you can. And I am going to take this and put it in student pace so that way the 14 of you that are logged in can see the difference now. So slides number 11 and 12 are the same exact activity. One of them, if I show you this one was homemade. I made this one myself, and you'll see that the red words can be dragged. So my students can drag the word bank over to the blank lines. Page 12 is the smart activity. This is the one that the template makes. And you'll see it looks really cool. I can drag the words, but I, as the teacher, can't go grade my students' work on this one. So I want you guys to take about a minute, try the two different activities, and then we'll talk about the difference between them. So you're looking at slides 11 and 12 right now, just to see the difference between a smart template and a teacher-made activity. And then we'll discuss it. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to look at that. If you have questions in the meantime, you can come off of mute or you can put them in the chat. I'm going to pull the chat back up so I can see it. I see a lot of concentrated looking faces. Mhm. All right. Nicole, do you think that more people would like that if we give like a 5-minute break rather than just 2 minutes to try this yourself? So I know Nicole just left us momentarily, but the rest of you seem to still be around. Would anyone like to come off of mute and give us an opinion of those two activities? So they were the same activity, just different methods of display. Very quiet group. If you don't want to say, you can type. And Stephanie, I'm going to give you guys a break between this and the next thing because I see a lot of you, I think, need that break.
I think the only thing that I saw difference-wise is the second one with the graphics and pictures. The kids may just enjoy a little bit more. It just looks a little more fun than the other one.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things is it definitely is more fun. The other sample, as you can see in my sample slide that had like a picture of both of them, this was a ranking. And when you get the math problem, when you put the numbers in the right spot, the players will actually shoot the basketball. And if they get the wrong answer, it misses the basket. Whereas this one, they just drag the numbers and that's it. So
it just may allow the kids to think that it's less overwhelming.
Yeah. So
if they're looking at a, go ahead.
For Susan, who wrote, can you only check your work in the second one? So that is the issue right now, is the teacher can only grade the work. So the students can self-grade themselves on the activity because you can set the activity to mark it, but you as the teacher wouldn't see their answers. The second one that doesn't have the graphics, the kids can't see the right answers, but the teacher can check the answers. And that's the big difference, is one is for the kids only, the other one's for the teacher, if that kind of makes sense. I do know of one of my friends, he actually created a notebook like this of just math review, and he gave it to his son. So when they're in the grocery store, his son actually opens up Smart on his cell phone and plays math problems. So the teacher's not grading it, just the kids practicing it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you guys, is 5 minutes a good break, or do you think you need 10? Because I don't want to go overtime and I want to make sure we get the software in.
I'm going to bet most of our team just came from IEPs that started at probably 8 o'clock or earlier this morning and haven't had
10 minutes.
So 10, just long enough so they can wash their hands too, might be a good idea.
All right, so I'm going to just
weigh in. They should weigh in.
And while you guys are coming back, Allison, I just put in the chat the a step-by-step how to change the speakers for your PC. So that's how you can select between your computer's built-in speakers or the smartboard speakers. There's a couple different ways to do it, but basically all you have to do is go ahead and like right there to that website, or yeah, to that website that I sent you the link, and it'll show you pictures and steps of how to change the speakers for your PC. All right. So was 10 minutes enough for you guys wishing you had more time? All right. So we're only got another like 40 minutes together. So I want to kind of take you into the software because that's that's the meat and potatoes of Smart. So the board is amazing, it's the hardware, but the software is where you're really going to get to like experience stuff. All right, so when we're looking at the software, we are going to actually go back into Google Drive to start. So if you guys want to follow, I'm not sharing my screen right now. I just realized that I'm sharing a different. There we go. All right, so you guys should all be looking right now at Google Slides, or not Google Slides, at Google Drive. And you'll notice I have two quasi-identical files. One has the little yellow Google Slides icon, and the other one has the circular Smart Notebook icon. So those are the two different files that are the same file. And the way that we do this is there's two different ways. So if you are starting from scratch, if you have absolutely nothing else, you are going to click on New, and then you'll see the option for More, and Smart Learning Suite will be on the option list. If you have a Google Slides like I do right here, I could right-click on the Google slide, and then when I go to Open With, I will see Smart Learning Suite as an option. So either way will get you to Smart Learning Suite. One way is going to open it up as a blank starting page. The other way is going to convert your Google Slides. So I am going to do New. So I'm going to go File, More, Smart Learning Suite, and we are going to just open Smart Learning Suite from scratch so I can show you exactly what you can do in here. So you'll notice, first of all, when you click that, it opens up another page. And look right here. Doesn't this look familiar to you all? This first one right here on the left, that's what I just did on my board. So because I was logged into my board, it saves it to my cloud. So that's one thing I want you to be aware of. The other thing is to start a new file. You'll see here it says visit my drive. That's because, and this is really important, when you start in Google Drive, whatever folder you're in is where the new file is going to save. So I am in my drive, training folders, Brandywine. If you were in my files, Math 2021, or if you were in a specific student's name, or you were in the home screen, whatever folder trail that you're in when you start, that's where the file is going to save. So I am going to now start a brand new file, and I click Add Activity. Again, it reminds you that it's saving it to my drive and the Brandywine folder, and it gives me a couple of options to get started. I can import a file. So if I have a Google Slides, or I have a PowerPoint or a PDF, whatever I have, I can click Import, and you'll see it says I could upload something from my computer, or I could pull something in from Google Drive. I could start with a YouTube video. I could start with a blank page. We're going to look at the activities in a moment, but I'm not going to start with an activity. And then we also have some ready-made activities. So we talked about the Venn diagram before. You can get to that Venn diagram by going here to graphic organizers. You can get to the games by going here to game-based activities. But we're going to just start with a new blank page. Because again, I want to just show you the basics right now. And if you want to follow along with me, I do want to make sure that your accounts are working. And as I mentioned, if you were not in that incognito window, if you had logged in as yourself before during my class, we got to get you logged out and logged in. So when you go in right now, through your Google Drive, I want you to tell me if it's marked, if it's showing you as a teacher or if it's giving you some kind of error message. Oh, Allison just wrote she's tried that before, but she'll try it again. It was probably user error. It could have possibly not been user error. I will tell you that there have been times where I've tried it. If it's still not working for you, the best thing to try is to turn your computer off and back on with the smart cord already plugged in. Susan says she doesn't have Smart Learning Suite under more. All right, so that is a Christine question, because I thought that when we had talked about installing that for your teachers. It's not there yet.
So it's actually, this is awful. It's not a me question yet, but I can foresee it will be very soon. I only became involved when we did this huge high needs grant, which is for some special boards that some of these folks are getting. I will follow up. I've got Brenda on the texts. I'll follow up with her and I'll find out what's going through technology and we'll get it handled ASAP.
Okay. So since you guys don't have that right now, I'm going to take you in a different way. It's just not going to organize it through your Google Drive as nicely. But I'm also going to send this link that I'm about to put in the chat for you. This is for your administrator. I'm just going to let you know that now. Whoever creates your email addresses, so whoever is the one who has the control over the Google domain. Oh, I just saw a hand go up. Is that you? Oh, he was probably talking to someone off the camera. So that link that I just put, that gsuite.google marketplace, whoever creates the accounts for your school district is the one that has to do it. It's one click for the entire domain, but it's an administrative account has to do it.
Okay, Corey. So it's I'm sorry to interrupt everyone else's learning, but I'm hoping to help all of you at once. So what I need to do is talk to our IT people to make sure that we have the domain account set up correctly.
Kind of. So it's not an account.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you see on my screen share?
I do.
How it's right now, mine says uninstall.
Yeah.
If you were to click on that link, it'll actually give you an error that says admin only.
Okay.
They have to click install, but it's one install for everyone with your with your school district email.
Okay. So should I talk to you or to Brendan later?
You shouldn't even have to talk to either of us. It's just the email link. You can talk to me if your IT department needs help, they can email me.
I think that might be the issue. So if we could talk later, that would be great because I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Okay, and Maria just wrote, I logged in with this link, but don't know if it saved to my drive. It probably did not save to your drive because that link is for the admin. All right, so since you guys can't go in through Google Drive, what you are going to do is you're going to go to a different website right now. Your files are still going to be saved there in your cloud. The difference is it's not going to be organized. So you will still have access to these files from, and I didn't make that a hyperlink. I am so sorry. Hang on, let me type that with the HTTP. So suite.smarttech.com is the teacher page of Hello Smart. The issue is, you'll notice when you go to that. So if I go to suite.smarttech.com, when it loads, you're going to see it's that page that we were just on when I hit the new file. But you see how everything is just listed as today, yesterday, older, keeps going. You can't organize these files in any real way. These files basically just go in reverse chronological. Newest stuff on top, older stuff further down below. When you use it in your Google Drive, you'll see, like, for example, right here, these are all schools that I've done trainings for recently. And I say recently because I just cleaned my Google Drive a few weeks ago. So I finally organized it a little better. But you'll see here, Like I have generic resources. Here's the blank copy of every presentation that I then modified. So like I added stuff to the Brandywine file based on what we had talked about. And then I made that copy here in the Brandywine folder. So once you have your Google Drive connection, it's going to allow you to organize your files. So if you have, like I said, if you have a math class and a science class, or let's say you have your IEP student that needs a read aloud versus the IEP student that needs special coloring because of vision issues. You can save those files in special folders. So that way, you know, this is all John Smith's files and this is all Sarah Jane's files. And I'm purposely using some Doctor Who names just to make somebody happy in this call. And I don't even see a smile right now. It's okay. But yeah, so that's the reason Google Drive is much better. It allows you that organization that Smart doesn't let you do organically. But we're going to just go into that Smart Learning Suite right now. And you're going to click here where it says Add Activity. Because I am linked into my Google Drive, it defaults back to that last folder I was in, but you guys, it's just going to say Create New File. So again, we're just going to do a blank page to get started. Now, here's the reason why I like to, yes, Susan, you should be logging in with your Google information. I just saw you type that in the chat. So yes, so when you go to the Smart Learning Suite, you should see the little like pop-up icon that says log in with Google. You want to connect the two accounts now, even though you can't connect it on the back end that your administrator has to do. Because when you log into the board using Google, these files sync with the board. Oh, okay, so Allison just said we have to choose start for free. We are definitely going to have to talk with Brendan about your licensing. And your IT department, me and Brendan will have to get together on that one. Because so what happens is when you guys got the boards, you got these software licenses, your IT department has to assign the license. So if you, like, let's say you got 20, I don't know how many licenses, that's Brendan's question. But like, and Brendan he was on the call at the beginning, he's the salesperson. So if you purchase 20 licenses, your school has to go into the list of 20 and say, all right, license 1 is going to Patricia, and license 2 is going to Stephanie, and license 3 is going to Susan. So we'll get with your IT department. We'll get this all squared away for you.
Corey, I've already texted and I'm facilitating that. I think that's what the breakdown was. I wasn't involved at the beginning, and I think there were some breakdowns.
Okay.
Okay.
So I apologize for the
No, it's not. I do assistive technology, which means something completely different than IT. So
I know. Trust me, I know.
As you know, yeah. So but Brenda had ordered the original batch.
There is some assistive stuff built into Smart that we're going to talk about soon.
That's awesome. But Brenda had set up the original batches, and I'm just going to follow through to make sure that everything's assigned out the way it should be.
So for those of you clicking the start for free, it is sort of like almost everything else these days. You get so much storage for free, and then you have to pay for premium for more storage. So once your school allocates your licenses, your storage is going to go from like 5 files to unlimited files. So that's basically the free is just limiting how many things you can do. I don't actually know what the megabytes is for the free account, but I know that the paid account is unlimited, if that helps. And just, you can get started, don't worry. So just like with your Google Slides or anything else, on the top, you're gonna see right now it says Untitled. If you click on that and highlight the word Untitled, you can call this something. So I'm gonna change this to Demo Presentation. So just like with Google Slides, get in that habit, never leave something as untitled, or else you're going to have a gazillion untitled files. So best practice, always name it first. Then you can come in here and you can hit your letter A, you could add words, or you can just double click on what's already there. So it says Enter Title. If I double click on Enter Title, I can type. Now, remember, I just told you I was going to talk about some assistive technology while we're in here. Allison logged in after choosing start for free or before. Whatever the site prompts you to do, just follow. So if you have to click start for free and then click login, or if you click login and then it asks you if you have an account, I'm not sure which way it goes.
Yeah, no, I'm in. I was asking Susan if she had to click
Okay,
choosing start for free first, or if she was able to log in after.
gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
See, I wasn't sure. Sorry. That's the problem with I have you guys on the smart board and I'm looking back and forth between my computer and my. I'm gonna re-angle myself a little bit. How's this? There we go.
So it looks like some people got in differently. I just clicked on the start for free because there was no login button and just logged in through Google, but then had to make my agreements.
Okay.
And everything like that.
And when your students log in, it's going to be different for the students than it was for you, just to give you that heads up now. When the student, so remember when I had you go to hellosmart.com at the beginning and I told you to click login as guest?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to click login with Google and it's going to sync their accounts. And I'll explain to you why that's better to have them log in with Google than as guests. Think about the old days. Remember when we had packets of worksheets and you might have made a stapled packet of 10 pages that was for like 2 weeks worth of class? All right, so remember when the kid came in on Wednesday and said, I don't know where my packet is for Monday. And you had to give them a brand new packet and they didn't have pages 1 to 5 done, but they started on page 6. That's logging in as a guest. When you log in as a guest, the teacher will actually still see pages 1 to 5. But remember, the other thing I'm going to remind you, remember how I showed you the teacher view and it showed all my kids' names? I can pull it up again if that's easier for you visually. So when you see all your kids' names, you will actually be able to see every student. So let's open this up again. So it's going to load and then I'll be able to show you this a little better. So I still have 9 students logged in. So most of you already closed out of it and that's fine. I'm not giving you guys more work right now. But if I come to my Icebreaker and click student progress, I can see my students' work. But now like Eric here, he was logged in as a guest. Did he log out already? No, Eric is still logged in. Let's pick someone who was logged out just to use as a reference. I didn't see Allison Brody still. All right, so like Allison Brody had already logged out as a guest. So let's say she comes back in tomorrow and she logs in as a guest again. She won't be able to see her work from yesterday. I, as the teacher, still see everything. But what she would see, or what I would see for tomorrow, is I would see Allison Brody listed twice. Because when you're logged into the guest, it basically assumes you're another person with the same name. Because you typed your name in. You could have called yourself whatever you wanted. So every time a guest logs in, they're a new person. When you log in with Google, you're you every time. So if I log in with Google today and I do pages 1, 2, and 3, and then I log in with Google next week and do pages 4, 5, and 6, it'll still be one person. It'll still be one set of packets, and my students can go in and see their work later as well. So that's the benefit of logging in with Google, is it just gives you that continuousness. It gives you that ability to go back and see it again, to review. If you as the teacher are giving your students feedback, you want your students to be able to see that feedback. So that's another reason to have them log in with Google, because that gives them the feedback. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to close out of this. So that way I can go back to making the new slides. All right. So when you guys are looking at the blank slide, Do you see how down at the bottom left, there's a little icon of a person with like kind of speech bubbly looking stuff coming out of their mouth? All right. That's adaptation number 1 that Smart has finally installed for us, because watch this. Add instructional audio. Welcome to today's lesson. As we move from slide to slide, click the speech bubble to hear the directions. You can then play it back to yourself, make sure you like how it sounds, and you click add. Notice that now I have that speech bubble bigger up in the corner. I'm going to really quickly go out of editing mode so you can see what the student mode would look like. My students will all see any slide that has audio directions. They see that little speech bubble with a play symbol, and they can click on it. They can play the audio. I've seen teachers actually give spelling tests this way too. So they'll do like the audio and say, on line 1, write Pennsylvania. On line 2, write Delaware. On line 3, write New Jersey. I'm just using states because it was the first thing that came into my head. But they could do the audio directions, and then the kids would be able to go in and write on each slide. And if the kids needed to go backwards, they can rewind 5 seconds, they can fast forward 5 seconds, so they can hear the directions as many times as they need to complete that assignment. All right, so that is, and I just saw somebody in the waiting room, so let them join. So that is the one adaptation that they have in there. That is kind of the only assistive technology adaptation that Smart has, but it's a really good one that's more recent. If you want to add another slide, you click on the plus sign here, and it pulls up that whole menu again. Notice that the first option to import a PowerPoint or a PDF disappeared. That option is only available for new slides. Nicole, go take care of your daughter. That's the most important thing. Family matters. All right. So we're going to look at the game-based activities because, that's the fun stuff. And I want to show you how fast this is to create that game-based activity. So first of all, here are all the ones that you can choose from. And you'll notice we did the fill in the blank before, so I'm going to use that as my example. If I hover over that magnifying glass to see preview, it lets me see what the activity looks like. And you'll see that this one says 5 themes available. So before we did the science, it looked like a mad scientist lab. This one looks like an ocean. There are 5 different backgrounds that you can choose from for fill in the blank. If I go to match them up, there are 8 different themes. You'll notice that the matching you have here, it says animal and sound. You pick the animal, you pick the sound, and if it matches, it goes up there. If it doesn't match, it comes back. But that is how easy these games are to create. So let's actually create a match them up. So we just clicked match them up, and it says add content. So I'm going to do categories. We're going to do monster, or actually we're going to do Muppet, because I was going to do Sesame Street again. Muppet and color. And when we look at our Muppets, we have Elmo. What color is Elmo? He's red. We have Big Bird. What color is Big Bird? He is yellow. So look at how fast I'm creating these questions. The faster you can type, the faster you can create these. This is how easy this game is to do. Let's do one more. Let's do Oscar and green. It says I have 6 pairs remaining. You can do up to 10 matching. Then I click next. Oh, sorry, check answers instantly or when prompted. That's just, do you want your kids to know right away that they got the right answer, or do you want to have to match all of them and then check their answers at the end? So instant or at the end. Then you click next, and it lets you pick your theme. Remember I said that every game has a different number of themes. This one has dragons, garden, rock concert, mad scientist, superhero. You pick what theme you want, you click finish. And that's it. I've now created a game. I could preview my game. And you'll see there's my Muppet, there's my color. So I'm going to take Oscar, I'm going to drag him to the word green. And that was a match. I'm going to take Cookie Monster and I'm going to drag him to the letter yellow. Notice I'm doing it incorrect on purpose. It electrocuted the musicians and it put the picks back at the beginning. Take Big Bird, match him to yellow. They rock out. Take Elmo, match him to blue. They get electrocuted. So that's just the fun graphics. It gives them something. But that's how easy it was to create that game. And you can do that with anything. You can do math facts. You can do literary characters, definitions. We were talking about adaptations. I just thought of another assistive adaptation you can do. So where I did Elmo in the color red, I could instead take a picture. So let me really quickly find a picture of Elmo and save it to my computer. So we're going to save the image. And now I can click on that little picture icon next to Elmo. Oh, I forgot it did have the Bing Safe Search. But now I have that picture of Elmo. I can do a picture of Big Bird. So you can match either words or pictures. And now when I go finish it and I go to preview, you'll see that instead of the word Elmo, it has a picture of Elmo. So you can do matching with pictures instead of words. And just like before, because I didn't show you that, you have that speech bubble again. Match the character to the correct color. And now my game has audio directions. So those audio directions can be added to every single slide, up to 5 minutes per slide. Let's say you wanted to do something like the handout, so like our icebreaker. And we are kind of running out of time, so I am rushing through this a little bit at this point, but if you have questions, I'm going to stay on for you. And also, you're more than welcome to email me and stuff as you start playing with the software and learning more. So let's add a new blank slide. And this time I am going to say, draw a picture of a flower. If I don't want to insert a direction, I can just delete that extra set of text. I can drag this, move it anywhere on the slide I want. But then right here it says convert to activity. Making it a handout is what we did as the icebreaker. So if I click make it a handout, that means that each student gets an individual copy. If I click collaborative workspace, that means the whole class is going to work on it together. So that's the difference between handout and workspace. Handout is individual and workspace is collaborative. But you can just click, make it a handout, and now every student will get their own copy and they'll all see the toolbar on the left. The last thing I want to go through, because we are kind of running out of time, is if you have that Google Slides. So I'm going to go back to the presentation that I did with you guys earlier, because I want you to see this last part. And then I also want to show you how to share this with students for offline use. So we've been doing it where we're all on the Zoom call together and I was controlling the slides, but I want to show you how to do this if you want your kids to do it independently. So I'm going to show you that too before we run out of time. So I'm going to come up here and click edit the lesson. And you'll see I have this slide already created that says drag the numbers least to greatest. I click on the letter A. I click down here and let's say I put -8. I'm going to just make the font bigger. So let's make that size 60. So I can drag that anywhere on my presentation. But what happens if I was to do like the number 0, put a couple spaces, do the number 8, put a couple spaces, do -9? Do you see how all of that moves together? You need to create a separate text box for anything you want dragged. Because if you do one text box, it drags the whole thing together. But if I click that letter A, I can do the number 8. I click the letter A, I can do the number -5 or negative whatever. So you want whatever you want the kids to drag, you have to make each one an individual text box or image. My background, meanwhile, was imported from Google Slides, so it is stuck on there. It's not going to move. Convert that to the activity, and now my kids would be able to come in here. Obviously, that was the mess up, but they'd be able to come in and drag the numbers in order, or they can take their pen and they could write the numbers. So that would be the dragging. You have to do each text box individually. So we're going to click Finish Editing. And now you're looking at the teacher view of the presentation. So this is how you get that link for your students. If you want your students to be working asynchronously by themselves, you come up here to the 3-line menu and you click Share. It's going to give you 2 options. So the Share with a teacher is going to make a fresh copy for your teacher, and then each teacher has their own copy of the presentation. Any changes you make after the copy will not be sent to your colleague. So if I'm just picking the 2 names that don't have a picture right now. So if Susan and Stephanie are working together and Susan sends the file to Stephanie, but then Susan adds 2 more slides, Stephanie doesn't see those 2 more slides. It's not like sharing a Google slide where you're working on the same file. It is like making a photocopy and handing her a copy of your packet. So once the teacher makes a copy, they're only seeing what was copied at that point. They're not seeing any changes. The student link is going to stay connected to your teacher copy. So if Susan shares that student link with her students, and then let's say tomorrow Susan adds 2 more games to the presentation, the students will get those extra slides the next time they click the link and log in. So that student link is what you would copy and paste. So like if I paste that, oh, I just sent that as a private message to someone who just messaged me. So if I paste that link in there, that's the student link. You would all be clicking it as a student, and it would let you participate, complete the assignment, and then I as a teacher can see whatever you did because you were logged into the assignment. All right, so I am going to open the floor up to questions now. And again, I'm not going to log off right at 3 o'clock. So please, if you have questions or if you want to play for a few minutes and try some stuff and then ask questions, I don't mind staying around for a little bit. I know we did go a little fast through the software at the end.
I think we may end up having more questions as we have access to the software and we're able to do more. I think then, like, when we kind of play around, we may end up having more questions. I don't know about anybody else, but that's what I'm thinking.
No problem. And like I said, I know that this was kind of fast. I'm 90% positive that was the right link. Let me just click it and make sure. Yes, that was the right link. So this link that I just put, the bit.ly, that takes you to a resource page that has just like links. It has some like YouTube channels that it's bookmarked. It also has some different activities that work really nicely with the touch screens. So I put that list together and I add to it occasionally. I don't really delete from it, so some stuff might be outdated, but I do add to it when I find new stuff. So that's a good link to bookmark. It also has my contact information for you guys. So that way, if you didn't get my my information. It's there for you.